Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing some Silent Swordsman Phantom Knight test hands. So I'm really excited this week guys, because this was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Mimi. And this deck is a really amazing deck because it summons out one of the most nostalgic monsters in the entire game, which is our Silent Swordsman, backed up by one of the most powerful warrior engines in the entire game, which is our Phantom Knight. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like in your name description every single video, getting assigned cards to the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single one to your patron along with test hands. And definitely giving me some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into it. So this deck is a really amazing deck that basically turbos out your copy of your Silent Swordsman to your side of the field as quickly as possible, while also summoning out some amazing boss monsters from the extract like your copy of your Rusty Bardige and other cards like your Utopic Future, and can even summon out Silent Swordsman level 7 from the deck if your opponent gets rid of your Silent Swordsman, which if they don't, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. But you guys know it's dad rule number 1, you got to pile shuffle the deck. That is super important so you don't draw into 3 copies of Silent Swordsman. That would be bad, but we're going to go ahead and pile shuffle it up and then give the deck a quick shuffle and see what we can pull off. So let's go ahead and see what we can do after we give it a pile shuffle and then a quick shuffle, because this deck does some crazy awesome stuff, but you don't want to draw into 3 copies of Silent Swordsman. That would just be really bad, but you could still get into some really amazing plays. So let's see what we can actually do. So we're going to draw into a copy of Ragged Gloves, Tour Guide, that's already pretty good, a copy of Silent Boots, a copy of Silent Swordsman, and a copy of Torn Scales. I don't even know where to start. This is a really amazing hand because you have 2 really great starters with the copy of the Phantom Knight, Torn Scales, and the Tour Guide. I think I'm going to go the Tour Guide route because it's a little bit crazy. So we're going to go ahead and normal summon out the copy of Tour Guide to our side of the field, which is going to activate its effect to be able to special summon out from the deck a copy of our Graph, which is super good to be able to summon that card to our side of the field. We're then going to link these 2 together for a copy of Cherubini, which is super important to put on our side of the field because the Cherubini is actually going to be a key combo piece because it has a really unique effect to be able to send an additional monster from our deck to the graveyard. So you can actually send from the deck to the graveyard a copy of Torn Scales, because this one's actually going to stay in the hand because you're not going to send it to the graveyard. So we're going to go ahead and send the copy of Torn Scales to the graveyard, and then we're going to use its effect of the Graph. Before we even send that card to the graveyard, we're going to use the copy of Graph to be able to bring out from the deck a copy of our Seer, which is really important so we can actually link climb. So now you can use the effect of the Cherubini to actually send the Torn Scales from our deck to the graveyard, and then we're going to link these 2 cards together to summon out our copy of our Rusty Bardige. Now the effect of the Seer when it touches the graveyard will actually bring back the copy of Cherubini, which is pretty helpful to get you an additional monster on your side of the field. It really helps out because this is going to be the main play that you're going to be going for in this particular line, to be able to get both of these monsters out on the field and then getting your setup plays really rolling. So you're going to use the effect of your copy of your Rusty Bardige, which is going to send a copy of a Phantom Knight monster from our deck to the graveyard, which I'm actually going to send a copy of Ancient Cloak from the deck to the graveyard because we have the copy of Silent Boots in the hand that we can special summon. So at this point, we're going to actually use the effect to be able to set a copy of Fog Blade to our side of the field, which is going to help us out a lot just to get that card into our side of the field to give us an additional negate. So then at this point, we're going to go ahead and banish the copy of the Ancient Cloak from the graveyard to get an additional The Phantom Knight card from our deck and put it on our side of the field, which is going to help us out a lot. You can get a copy of the copy of the Shade Brigandine. You can get any of the Phantom Knight monsters. It's totally up to you which one you grab. I probably will grab the copy of the Shade Brigandine so we can special summon it to our side of the field. But don't forget, you actually have an additional effect in the graveyard, which is the effect of the Torn Scales, which is why we send it to the graveyard. So we're going to go ahead and put that card back on our side of the field, set that copy of the Shade Brigandine and activate it, put it on our side of the field, and then tribute it because it is a warrior monster to put our Silent Swordsman on the field. I'm going to put it way down here because we're going to keep comboing over here. So at this point, you can use the effect of our Torn Scales, or you can go ahead and special summon out the Silent Boots, which is what I would totally recommend. Special summon out that copy of Silent Boots, and then discard the copy of the Ragged Gloves to the graveyard for the copy of Torn Scales to send an additional card from our deck to the graveyard. Depends on what you actually want to send to the graveyard. I would actually recommend to send to the graveyard the copy of Wing, because Wing is going to get us a revive, which is going to be really, really helpful for our plays, because we're going to get all sorts of really crazy cool plays after we send that copy of this to the graveyard. So once we actually send this to the graveyard off the copy of the Torn Scales, we're going to get an additional effect, because this card sends any Phantom Knight from your deck to the graveyard. You can discard a card, and then you can send a Phantom Knight card from the deck to the grave, which the copy of Wing can actually banish itself to be able to special summon back the copy of the Ragged Gloves that we additionally sent to the graveyard for the copy of Torn Scales, which is why this card is so good. So now that we got that lined up, we can actually go ahead and overlay both of these monsters on our side of the field, or you can actually do it this way and overlay these two monsters on your side of the field, because you want to get that Silent Boots in the graveyard, because we haven't banished the Silent Boots for effect. So we're going to make a copy of the Sea Dragon Levinair, detach a material, which is the copy of the Silent Boots, to bring back the copy of the Ancient Cloak, to then be able to overlay both of these monsters on our side of the field to go in for an additional copy of our Sea Dragon Levinair, which we don't have to actually activate right away, which is really cool. You don't have to activate it right now. So we're going to go ahead and detach a material for it, or actually we're going to be able to banish a card from the graveyard first, which is our copy of our Silent Boots, to be able to get an additional copy of Fog Blade set to our side of the field, because we're going complete full combo with this to be able to put that face down on our side of the field, detach a material from it now to be able to go in for the copy of the Silent Boots that is actually banished, and then we're going to use both of these monsters to be able to summon out an additional card. So we're going to go ahead and use both of these monsters down here. We're going to summon out the Utopic Future and then the Utopic Draco Future on our side of the field, just to get that crazy powerful monster on our side of the field. And we're not even done yet. We're actually going to link these two monsters away to the graveyard to summon out a copy of Anaconda down here. We're going to use the copy of the Anaconda to pay the 2,000 life points, send the copy of the Fusion Destiny from the deck to the graveyard, send a copy of our Destiny Hero Plasma, and send a copy of our Celestial to the graveyard to get an additional card. And we have established the ultimate field that this deck can actually produce, which is a Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, which gives us a pop, our first negate, which is the Utopic Draco, our second negate, which is the Silent Swordsman, and then two additional negates face down, which is our Fog Blades, which is really cool, with a Torn Scale still in hand that if we draw into the next turn, we can discard the Silent Sword Slash or put it on the field. But the really cool thing about this particular setup is your opponent's probably going to go after that Silent Swordsman, which when it passes to the opponent will be at 1,500, but if they do out this card, you actually get to summon from the deck a copy of the Silent Swordsman level 7 to your side of the field, which is a really crazy card because it's basically a Jinzo but for spell cards. This card is really cool because it has the ability that basically you negate all spell effects on the field. We don't use that many spells in this deck, so this card basically just stops all of our opponent's spells, while we can stop the monsters with these cards and give us pops with this. You're going to basically stop them with this card from all spell cards, which is just crazy awesome. This is basically the full field and the best combo line for this particular hand, which is why I saw that hand and was like, oh, we just drew the craziest hand. This is a really awesome field that you can actually establish with this, which is the Utopic Draco, the Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, and even the Silent Swordsman on your side of the field. If they don't out it, you're just going to keep that on your side of the field and shuffle this back into the deck. But this is pretty much the full combo if you're going in for this particular build. And so let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next one, because this is a really amazing field that we've established. To get both of our copies of Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer and even the copy of the Rusty Bardies, we didn't even really need the Anaconda to go for that copy. We could, if we didn't have the copy of the Torn Scales and it was a Fusion Destiny in the hand, you could have gone the other route and just activated the Fusion Destiny last and gone for that particular play. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can pull off for the next one, because that was absolutely insane to pull off that crazy of a field and just get all those different monsters on our side of the field, which is just really cool. So let's go ahead and see what we can pull off for the next one. I know it's not going to be that crazy unless we do the exact same thing. So let's see what we can actually pull off. So we're going to shuffle up the deck again, and we're going to see what we can do. We're going to go ahead and cut the deck right here and see what we can pull off. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Silent Boots, a copy of Tour Guide. That's already full combo again. A Torn Scales, a Silent Sword Slash, and a copy of Silent Swordsman. This is a really good hand. Again, let's see what we can do. We're going to normal summon out the copy of Tour Guide to our side of the field, and once we normal summon out that copy of Tour Guide, we're going to use its effect to be able to summon out a copy of Graph, just like we did before, because that is the best combo. Normal summoning Tour Guide is the single best combo in the entire deck, because you can go in for all your different plays. Go ahead and link these two together for that copy of Cherubini, because the Cherubini is going to just give you all sorts of different plays. The copy of Graph is then going to go off and special summon out a copy of Seer from the deck, because we want to get that copy of Seer onto our side of the field so we can revive back the Cherubini when it does go to grave. So now at this point, you can use the effect of the Cherubini to send an additional card from your deck to the graveyard, which is going to be that copy of Torn Scales, because then you can get it back later onto your side of the field, which helps out the deck a lot to get that card back on your side of the field, so you can get that additional mill and get all sorts of crazy plays. So now that we're going to go ahead and link these two together, and once you link these two together, we're going to go for that copy of Rusty Bardige, and the copy of Seer will go off, bringing back the Cherubini back to the field, which is really good because we're already back where we started with the first combo. So now at this point, you can use the effect of the Rusty Bardige. And once you use the copy of the Rusty Bardige, we're actually going to send an Ancient Cloak from our deck to the graveyard, because you want to get you basically want to get your copy of Torn Scales, your Boots, and your copy of your Ancient Cloak to the graveyard, because you can get all those different searches with all those different cards. So we're going to go ahead and send the copy of Ancient Cloak from our deck to the graveyard to be able to get even more plays. So now that we've got that card in the graveyard, you can basically just set to your side of the field the copy of your Fogblade for the effect of the Rusty Bardige. Now that we've got that on the field, we can go in for more plays, and you guys can tell we're already going to get a crazy hand because we've still got 4 cards in our hand. We've already established this, so we pretty much have gone a +2 off of a normal summon of a Tour Guide. So now at this point, we're going to go ahead and banish from the graveyard the copy of the Ancient Cloak, which is going to give us even more plays to be able to grab from the deck any the Phantom Knight card, which I'm actually going to grab the copy of Shade, because I want to get that card out on the field as quickly as possible to tribute for the copy of the Silent Swordsman, because it is a warrior when you activate it. So then at this point, you're going to go ahead and special summon back the copy of the Torn Scales, because the Phantom Knight was banished. Activate the copy of Torn Scales, put that card on the field, and then tribute it off to be able to summon out the Silent Swordsman, because you want that card on the field as quickly as possible, because if you don't get it on the field, you're still going to have really good plays, but you really need it as quickly as possible. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and use the copy of Torn Scales to be able to discard a Torn Scales to the graveyard to be able to give us an additional Foolish Burial of another monster, or another card, which we're actually going to send to the graveyard a copy of our Ragged Gloves. Ragged Gloves is going to be the important one to actually get, because we want additional cards banished. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and banish that copy of the Ragged Gloves to send that copy of Wing that we wanted in the graveyard originally. So we're going to send that copy of Wing just so we can have additional cards that we can revive from the graveyard. So at this point, we're going to special summon out the copy of Silent Boots, set the copy of Silent Sword Slash, and keep going from there, because you have so many other plays that you can actually pull off with this particular line. So we're going to go ahead and use the copy of Wing to bring back the Torn Scales to our side of the field, because you can just banish that card right off the bat, and then overlay both of these cards on our side of the field to go in for an additional copy of Levenair the Sea Dragon, which we're going to get a Utopic Future all over again. Detach that copy of the Silent Boots to be able to grab back from the banished pile a copy of our Ancient Cloak or Ragged Gloves. It doesn't super matter which one you grab. Overlay both of these right here, and then make a copy of your Levenair the Sea Dragon to get an additional copy of a card, which we're going to detach this, and then put the copy of our Ragged Gloves back on our field so we can get even more plays, which is super cool because we haven't even banished the copy of our Silent Boots yet. So we're going to go ahead and now make the copy of Utopic Future just to clean up the board a little bit. We're going to go ahead and use these 2 cards on our side of the field to make that copy of Utopic Future, again, to kind of clean up the board a little bit so we don't have all of those cards kind of running around. So at this point, you can go ahead and banish the copy of our Silent Boots from the the graveyard and search from the deck a copy of our, where is it? The copy of Fogblade, because you want to go double Fogblade with this particular setup. So then you can go ahead and use these two cards on our side of the field to go in for that Anaconda all over again, which is going to send from our deck to the graveyard a copy of Fusion Destiny, a copy of Plasma, and a copy of our Celestial to the graveyard, which is going to get us a copy of Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer all over again to get that crazy play. I know I said I wasn't going to do it twice, but I did. This is really crazy. Now we have even better combo because we have the copy of Fogblade, another copy of Fogblade, and now we have the Silent Sword Slash, which is going to put our Silent Swordsman at 3,000 on our opponent's turn. What you guys are looking at that 1,000 attack point monster and going, wait, how? So let me explain. So once we go ahead and pass over to the opponent, this card is actually going to go up by 500 because during each standby phase, this card gains 500 attack points, which is pretty good right off the bat. But once you do go up by 1,000 points, it goes up to 1,500, and then you can activate the copy of Silent Sword Slash, and 15 plus 15 is 3k. So this card is going to go up by an additional 3 times. So we're going to go ahead and put it at 4 because the 4 represents 500 for each one. So we're going to go ahead and put it at 3k. So this card is at 3,000 attack points, and it's unaffected by our opponent's card effects for the rest of the turn. So this card is also negating a spell. You got 2 negates right here, and you have a negate right here, and you also have the Phoenix Enforcer to pop something. So you again have 3 negates this time, and you're 4 actually with the copy of our Utopic Draco Future that can set a monster to our side of the field. And you have a pop with the Phoenix Enforcer as well, which is pretty crazy. This is a pretty crazy board, I'm not going to lie. Then we're going to go into the next turn, and we're going to go ahead and draw, and we're going to draw into a copy of Ancient Cloak. It doesn't really matter what we draw at this point because we've already got this crazy field. But let's go ahead and show you what we can do. Let's go ahead and normal summon out the copy of the Ancient Cloak to our side of the field, and once we do, we're going to go ahead and banish the Silent Sword Slash from the graveyard, and we're going to search from the deck a copy of Silent Swordsman just so we don't draw into it when we actually draw for our Celestial, which is going to be really, really important. So we're going to go ahead and special summon out the copy of our Silent Swordsman and banish from the graveyard the Celestial and the Plasma because we don't have any cards in our hand and it's the turn after we sent the Celestial to the graveyard. Banish those 2 cards and then draw 2 off the deck, which is another Silent Sword Slash and a Scarm, which we can then activate this, and this card will go up again by an additional 3, which is going to put it at a lot. Oh, and it's going to go up again for our turn, which would put it at, it was at 4, so it would actually go to 5, and then 3, which would be 2, and 6, which would be 8 times 5, which would be like 5,000 attack points. This card is literally at 5,000 attack points right now. That is absolutely crazy with this board that you've already established. Yes, this would be destroyed and it would just come right back because of the Anaconda effect, but that doesn't really matter because it's probably going to leave the field anyways when you get a pop, which is really important to keep in mind. But this is insane. This is a crazy cool board to be able to establish, and then the copy of Scarm is just kind of here. You don't really need to summon it at all, but you still have all these crazy awesome plays that you can still go for with this deck because even your opponent's probably not going to out this board, but you have all sorts of other crazy plays because if your opponent outs this or they put anything on the field that has any sort of attack points bigger than this, you can swing with this and it will go to the graveyard because it was destroyed by battle by an opponent's monster, and then you get Silent Swordsman level 7, and now on top of getting 2 negates here and a negate here, you also have the Silent Swordsman level 7 that's now negating spell effects. All spell effects that are on the field, because this card is essentially a Jinzo for spell cards, which is just really crazy because this card reads that you cannot be special by other ways, but this card ignores the summoning condition, but has the ability to negate all spell effects on the field, which is just crazy good. So you get to summon out this card to your side of the field and you get this crazy field. Like, this is probably one of the craziest fields I've established during a test stand video, and this is insane. I love this field. This is really, really good. So I think that's actually going to do it for this one, guys, because this field is just really, really good, and we actually established it twice, so this is very, very consistent in what we're trying to do. We can do one really quick one and see what we can actually draw from the hand. We'll do one more. Let's do one more quick test hand and see what we can actually pull off, because that was absolutely insane. I don't think we're going to get better than that, but I said that last time, and we did. So let's go ahead and just see what we can draw for the next one, because that was just That was insane. So let's go ahead and see what we can pull off with one more quick test hand and see what we can pull off with it. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck, give it a quick little riffle, and see what we can pull off for the next one. We're not going to pile shuffle, anything like that. We're just going to shuffle up the deck and see what we can draw into, because that was absolutely crazy. So for the next one, we're going to draw into a copy of Torn Scales. This is already a good hand. A copy of Chaos Space. We now have a search. Another copy of Torn Scales to discard for the Chaos Space. Tour Guide to go full combo. And graph. We don't want to draw the graph, but I think I can manage with it if I need to. Because I can just normal summon out the copy of Torn Scales, discard the copy of the other Torn Scales, and then be able to search the deck, and be able to mill something, and then go full combo with it all over again. This is literally full combo all over again, because you can just use the Torn Scales in the place of the Tour Guide, because you can do it a little bit like this. You can normal summon out the copy of the Torn Scales, and then discard the copy of the Torn Scales, and go all the way from there, because you're just going to get all sorts of different plays to be able to send from the graveyard. Or you can just normal summon out the copy of the Tour Guide to be able to special summon from the hand the copy of the graph, which is going to put us down one card, but then you go full combo like we did before. Summon out the Rusty, summon out the Cherubini, and then summon out your Topic Future, just like we did in the last one. So I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. I'm really, really glad that Mimi actually suggested this one, because this deck is just insane. We went through all of these extra deck cards in this particular hand. Like, you just use the rest of them pretty much for utility. Oh, and we had Zeus too. We could make Zeus. If our opponent outs our board, you can just make a Break Sword, swing, and then make Zeus, which is just really crazy that you have all that utility just in this one deck. And if you guys would like to check out the deck profile, it is down in the description down below. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next videos. See you later, guys.